Hi everybody, it's Christina from Adventures in Polish Land, and today I'm here with a Friday Reads video. I am going to commit to posting a Friday Reads every single week, and when I first came back to YouTube, I foresaw myself doing a Friday Reads every week, but I quickly fell off, and I think it's because I viewed Friday Reads videos as just a wrap-up, and I didn't feel like I was reading enough on a weekly basis to make the Friday Reads videos worth it. However, I have since come to find out that a lot of booktubers, some new to me that I've been following this year, treat a Friday Reads video more as a check-in. So they'll talk quickly about the books they've read that week, they'll talk about bookish news, maybe mention some other booktube events, and then they might talk about a different topic. So that's what I'm going to plan on doing in these videos. I am going to format them so that I can tell you what I read that week without doing a full review, because I will save that for my reading wrap-ups. Then I will also let you know if I hauled any books. I will let you know if I unhauled any books. I'll talk about any bookish events or news that I think I want to mention, and then I might have a discussion topic for the end of the video. So this week I'll be doing a tag at the end. But let's go ahead and start off with my reading update. I did finish a book on Sunday, and that was Will Prescribe You a Cat. This is by Syou Ishida. This is a Japanese novel. I absolutely love this. It was such a perfect, cozy read, and I think if you're a cat lover, you definitely need to pick this up. This was so cute, and I definitely want to continue on with this series. The next one is translated into English, but it looks like there's a whole host of these that are still yet to be translated, so I'll be keeping my eye out for that one. I might put the sequel to this on my Christmas list because it seems pretty popular. There are not a lot of options on the used market that I saw. And then I started Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. I had read one other book by Kevin Wilson, Perfect Little World, and I absolutely love that one. And this one, I am happy to say I loved as well. I essentially read this in one day. I started it on Sunday night and then I finished it Monday night. I just couldn't put this book down. It was so compulsively readable, and I really love this book. So I'm really glad I picked this one up, and I definitely need to consider reading more books by Kevin Wilson because he is 2 for 2 for me. It is very rare that I rate a book 5 stars, so to have 2 books by this author that I've read and rated 5 stars is very unique. And then I started reading a book on ebook. It is The Rest of Our Lives. This is shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize. I got an ebook ARC from NetGalley, and I had heard about this through a variety of YouTube channels that I watch that are really into the literature prizes, and this one sounded really interesting to me. It's about a man who he finds out his wife is having an affair, and so he decides once his kids are grown and out of the house, he's going to divorce her. So I did start that one. It's not going the best, but I will reserve my thoughts until the end of that book because I'm hoping he's going to redeem himself. Right now he's kind of on a villain arc for me, but I'm going to allow him to hopefully develop into a better character by the end. So that is the one book that I've brought into my library this week, and I have not unhauled any, though my shelves are overflowing, and I do have a section of books that I will be decluttering. So I think what I'll do is maybe next week I will go through and show you an unhauled pile. But this week I definitely wanted to chat with you about my reading plans for the end of the year, because we are in quarter 4 now, and I've been thinking a lot about how I want to wrap up the year. So I'm going to do the end of the year book tag. I'm reading from my little notebook here if you see me looking down. This was created by Ariel Bissett over at Books Unbound. So let's go through the questions that she poses. The first one is, are there any books you started this year that you need to finish? Now, I don't have any books I started this year that I need to finish, but I do have one book that I started last year that I need to finish, and that is the Penguin Book of Christmas Stories. This is just what it sounds like. It's a short story collection of holiday themed stories, and I have, let's see how many pages I have left. I think about 100 pages left. I just really struggle with short stories, and I did like some of them in here when I was reading this last year, but I just felt dragged out as the year came to a close, so I figured I am going to save this until this year's holiday season and finish up the book, because I do want to finish it. I think these stories, some of them are really good. I have a mental block when it comes to short stories, so this is a carryover from last year that I will hopefully be finishing. Then question 2 is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? And for me, that one was Christine by Stephen King. I talked about this in my September wrap-up if you'd like to hear more of my thoughts. But overall, this was a perfect book to transition from summer to fall because it starts at the end of our main character's summer vacation and it picks up as they go back to high school for the year. So perfect timing for that. I read it starting on September 1st. I didn't do that on purpose. It just worked out that it aligned with the plot of the book. And so this definitely had really autumnal vibes. It's very scary, it's very thrilling, and a horror novel. So that worked out perfectly for me. Question number 3 is there a new release you're still waiting for? And no, I don't really follow a lot of new releases. Really, the only one that was important to me this year was Patricia Lockwood's new book, and I've already read that. So I don't have any other releases for the rest of this year that I have my eye on. Question number 4 is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? Now, I don't have 3 specific books, but as you may know, one of my goals this year is to keep my physical TBR to 5 books or less. And right now, let me count. Right now, I have 12 books on my physical TBR, so I would like to focus for the rest of the year on getting that down to 5. I think that is more than doable. I should be able to do that maybe even by the end of October, if not November. And then I can decide if I'm going to go out and do some book shopping or if I want to utilize my library more, because I definitely feel like this year I have neglected my local library. But yes, I don't have 3 specific books I want to finish before the end of the year. My goal is to focus on my physical TBR pile. Question number 5 is, what trends have you noticed in your reading this year? For me, I noticed an interesting trend, which was reading fiction books about the British Empire. So I read the Old Filth trilogy by Jane Gardam, which dealt with Braj orphans, and that's children who are born to British parents in Shanghai and Malaya. I read other books about immigrants between Hong Kong and England. I read a book about English people who went to Jamaica and then moved back. For some reason, this seemed to be a big trend in my reading this year, and I didn't do that intentionally. It was just really interesting that I kept seeing that theme over and over in the literature I was reading. I also read Black Cake, which was the Caribbean and the UK. So that's interesting. I learned so much this year through my fiction reading, which is another overarching theme. I definitely read more diversely in terms of geographic region, and I think part of that is because I've been focusing a lot on the independent publishers' Europa editions and the New York Review of Books classics, and a lot of those are written by international authors and translated into English, so I've been learning a lot about other countries in the world. That's been so great because not only do I learn through the book itself, but then I am encouraged to Google more about those countries, those historical events, and so on and so forth. And I definitely want to continue expanding my horizons next year through my reading as well. So that's been really great, and I find that the more I focus on literary fiction, the more I am learning through my reading. Question number 6 is, how are you feeling about your reading goals? And I will quickly read to you my reading goals for this year. The first one was read 100 books, which is definitely not going to happen. I am currently, I think, at 50 something books. My goal now in the back of my head is to get to at least 70, which I definitely should, because the most that I've ever read in a single year in my adult life is 68 books. So if I can supersede that, that would be amazing. My second goal was to buy all of my books used except for 5. I'm doing great with that goal. So far, I've purchased 4 books brand new. My next goal was to read 4 Stephen King books. I've only read 1. I would hopefully like to read at least 1 more before the year is over, and then I'll feel a little bit better about that goal. My next goal was to reread at least 5 books. I have done that. I have reread primarily middle grade and children's books, but I would love to reread at least 1 more adult novel. That would be exciting. And then my last goal was to keep my physical TBR to 5 books, and we just talked about that. So I think I'm doing okay with my goals. I did set pretty steep goals for myself this year, especially with the read 100 books, because I've never come close to that before. But I am happy with my reading overall. I still see areas where I can improve. I'm still scrolling Instagram a lot when I don't want to be. I'm still watching YouTube a little more than I should be. So if I can break up with my phone a little bit more next year, I think I'll be in a great place with that. And that brings us to question number 7, which is, have you already started making reading plans for next year? So I have, in the back of my mind, been thinking about a few things. The first one is, this year I had a bit of a side quest, which is I wanted to document which of the United States I was reading from in terms of setting of the book. And I can show you my little map that I have here. So like I said, this was a side quest that I decided after the year began, and as you can see, a lot of this map is very empty. So I'm thinking next year it might be really fun if every month I pick 5 states out of a jar and I read 5 books that correspond with those states every single month. So that way I would get to 50 by the time the month is over. I'm also considering if I should expand this to be the United States territories as well, which I am encouraged to do after the silly drama that has taken place from the Super Bowl halftime show announcement, because as we should know, Puerto Rico is part of the United States. So maybe I should expand it to the territories as well. And I think going along with that, one thing that I definitely want to do is focus on all of the books I saved to my library list. Every time I watch a YouTube video and I hear about a book that sounds interesting, I log into my library account and I save it on a books to read list. But I have not been great about actually reading those books. Especially this year, I've been adding to that list a lot, and I haven't been reading very much from it. So I think it might be really cool if I went through the list, saw what state every book was set in, and then when I picked from the jar of states, I can match it up with my library list. That might be a nice project to do. I think it would take a little bit of work on my end, but it's probably worth it. But other than that, I kind of just want to stick with what I'm doing. I want to explore more independent publishers. I want to keep reading at a higher rate. I want to post more on YouTube because I'm learning about so many amazing books from so many great people that it's been a really great way to increase my understanding of the literature world. And one of the reasons I came back to YouTube and wanted to make these videos is because I have been told that I struggle with summarizing books in particular, and so I am hopeful that by talking about books here on my YouTube channel, I am increasing my skill level in summarizing plots and also discussing them at a high level. So I think this is a good hobby to have, a good practice to have, and it's always really nice to talk with other like-minded readers and chat about books in the comments. So that is it for the end of the year book tag. I will leave the original in the description box if you would like to watch the Books Unbound version as well as see the questions. And I hope you are going to join me as I post every single Friday what I am reading and what's going on in my bookish life. I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye.